Yo, JD here, Limitless, and as you can see, we are back on F1 2021 as always, and we are at Mexico, a track that I really do love and have grown to love in the past few years. And you can see by the title of this video, whatever I call it, but it's going to be something around the lines of why Mexico is the most useful track to drive on the Formula 1 games. I feel this track has really helped me throughout its existence on the Formula 1 games, because I think this track, really, to be a master at this track and to be successful here, you really have to tick all the boxes as a driver, because the alternate strategy is incredibly powerful, but you will see in this first stint that the mediums are just so much slower and they just have so much lack of grip compared to the softs. It's about 2 compounds difference in tyre rather than the 1. So you really have to adapt your driving. So when you go on the softs, it's like you're driving a completely different machine. So the adaptability you need around here is very high. Obviously with the tyre wear is actually quite significant as well. You have to actually manage your tyres, because quite often in a 50% race and even in a 35% race like in esports, you actually have to manage your wear quite a bit. And also with the tyre temps, as you can see here, just how difficult the medium tyres actually are to use. But then there's also the ERS management as well, because you've got this absolutely ridiculous long straight, and you can see what I'm doing here. I'm not using the ERS until I really need to actually use it, and you will see throughout this full race which we're showing of how I manage my races around Mexico, because this track, I would probably say, especially because I've been doing it quite a lot recently, I'd say one lap pace, it isn't one of my strongest tracks, because one lap pace is definitely not my strength. It's probably my weakest aspect of my driving. But I think in race pace and just in race performance, I think this is probably one of my best tracks. I think because you just have to do everything that I'm saying here. So you've got the alternate strategy, you have to manage your tyres, you manage your tyre wear, you have to adapt between the different compounds, you have to manage your ERS, but then the track limits are absolutely brutal around this track. And I've always said it, and I've said it again, when I do lobbies such as this, I use this as practice for league racing, and that's the way I've always treated online or public lobbies. I try and treat it as if I am doing a league race. So my mission here is to be as fast as possible whilst being as clean as possible. And I know people in the past, and I know a lot of people will back me up on this, where the good old comment where someone says, oh, you're only fast because, well, you only win because you don't get penalties. But it's actually very hard to be fast and clean at the same time. And you can see that in esports. If you get one penalty in esports, then you're outside the points. Pretty much, you're guaranteed not to get any points if you get a track limit. So that's how I'm treating it here. And you can see other people in the mediums, they are really struggling. And since I've done this so much, you can see how much more confident we are on these medium tyres. And I've gone for a little bit of a lower downforce, as I typically do in these online lobbies. So we're going to go down the inside here. Yes, we are. So being nice and decisive. A very wide corner, leaving him some room on the apex, but we get that move done very nicely. But again, being very strategic in how I approach this race. And you can see I'm using the ERS here, but then I've decided to turn it off, because this is just going flat out down the straight for a very long time. You can see he hasn't got the DRS, so you can see this is going to be a very nice pass. And then the good thing is as well is that we actually have the DRS on the exit, so I'm not using any of the overtake here because I don't have to defend my position. And with all these things I've listed, I think if you want to be good at Formula 1, and if someone was just new at the game, I would honestly tell them to do this track most of the time. Become very, very good at this track. And there's also the track in general. You have very, very heavy braking zones. You have to thread the car through a needle through here and keep it within the track limits. You have to manage the battery. You have to manage the tyres as we're going down the inside of both of these cars here. So doing this very, very well and keeping it on track as well. So very, very nice move indeed. But if you can master all these things around this track, when you come to other tracks, they may be different, but there wouldn't be as many things that you need to do simultaneously. So honestly, I think this track is a very, very underrated one in terms of improving yourself overall as a driver. Because as I said before, it's not always about pace, because there's plenty of people who have the pace. I think there's 1,000 people who could probably be in F1 esports and that kind of level, but there's only a few, or maybe 10 to 20, who can really, really deliver at that level. Is because they have all the elements you need in one, and they do it consistently. And that's definitely something you need to do when driving around this track as well. So those are some thoughts for you. Make sure you just ask me anything you want. It's almost looks in the car again, but you can see how much more confident we are, how much we're actually putting away. And you can see on the top left of the screen, we're the only one who doesn't have a penalty already. And you just got to play with percentages at times. I say this many, many times, and I learnt this from someone who I used to kart race with, as we actually get our first warning there, as we were just talking about it. But in kart racing, there was a multiple world champion who I used to race with. His name was Ollie Oakes. Pretty sure maybe people don't know who that is, but the best advice he gave to me is to drive 90% all the time. Because if you stay within your limits, then you will be faster and more consistent overall. And that's something that has really, really stuck with me for the long term. And not just in kart racing, but then also in the virtual world, such as this as well. Because when you need that extra 10%, you can use it when you need it. But I think most people fall into the trap of just going gun-ho every single lap, treating it like a qualifying lap every single time, and pushing to hell's content. But if you don't get in that rhythm and you don't develop that consistency, one lap might be great, but then other laps will be not so great, and you'll get penalties, and you'll just be much, much slower overall. And always having a goal in mind when you race. Like when I race here, I try and give myself some small goals. So my goal this lap was to try and get in the DRS zone of this guy up ahead. I've done that now, and am I going to use any of the ERS? I presume I'm probably not at this stage here, because I know my straight line speed is going to be very good. So he is going to defend this, or he was. We're going to go down the inside, making sure we outbrake him here. He tries to hold it around the inside, but that isn't going to work. And on the exit of this corner, we have comfortably got a good lead. And you can see the people up ahead have got 9 seconds, 3 seconds. Everyone else has 3 seconds ahead. So my next goal now is to try and break out the DRS zone from the car behind, and then be on my way. So setting yourself objectives such as that as the race is going on, and also having sometimes a long-term objective of what kind of lap times you want to be achieving every single lap. This comes with experience, and I find this is what really helps me to remain very, very consistent when I drive, as well as the guy up ahead now has 12 seconds worth of penalties. So we're coming up to not even the halfway stage yet. We've still got a little way to go. Some people have actually pitted already, so we go across the line of 80.7. Websy has pitted already, and he had a very, very big lead on myself. He actually doesn't have a penalty, so that definitely swings in his favour. But I probably, if I was him, I would have actually extended it even more, because the softs are so much faster than the mediums, and they're a fairly durable tyre as well. Then I would have probably extended that just a little bit more. So the goal here now is to try and keep FLK8, who is a member of mine. So if you want to join these lobbies, please make sure you join my YouTube membership by clicking the join button. If you're on PC, you'll get first priority invite to these lobbies, and you will be getting the setups that I use, such as this one right here as well. But the goal was to try and keep him out of this DRS zone for as long as I can, but I know the softs will still be quite good at this stage of the race. So detection point is here, so just making sure we do just enough to break out of it here. But it's really on the traction is where the mediums really do struggle. You can see he's going to get within 1 second, but he doesn't have the DRS. I know that he was a little bit too far behind. So if you look at the delta on the top left, I know I'm running quite low wings, and you can see that delta is going up and up quite extensively. And now the new goal is to look at Websy, who is 8.8 seconds behind, which isn't actually that far behind, because he had a very, very big lead on the soft tyres. But we're going to try and extend this for as long as we can, because I really want to try and maximize the freshness of the soft tyres as much as possible. As you can see, FLK8, who is also my teammate, he is falling within 1 second of what we are currently lapping in. So he's going to get the DRS to me quite comfortably here. The gap between myself and Websy is actually going up, so our pace on these medium tyres are very, very strong. BG Bull Beast, who I know is a pretty fast driver himself, that gap is 8.7 seconds, so it'll be interesting to see of how much difference that is. But we've just driven so many laps around here that we're just very, very confident on the pace here. So going across the line is an 18.5, so being quite consistent again. The gap is still going up to the medium runners up behind. You can see my tyre wear isn't too bad at this stage, and you can see my teammate is closing in, and this could be quite awkward, because if he actually overtakes me, then I might have to go an extra lap longer if he decides to box. So if I was him, I probably would have boxed that lap just to get somewhat of an undercut on myself here. But you can see Websy is actually closed in a little bit this lap, as he's overtaken Bull Beast, who is falling behind just a little bit. So I'd probably suspect this lap that I might be coming into the pits, since my teammate is very, very close to me. So going through this section, still only have one warning here. Really hustling the car, really have to deal with that chronic understeer. But then when you go on the soft tyres, it's a completely different world where you don't really have that understeer anymore. So be interesting to see if we box this lap. The gap is 0.6 of a second, so I might actually even continue just a little bit more as we do continue here. So might have to use a bit of the ERS to defend, trying to be as efficient as I can. You can see Websy is only closed in by about a second or so, but I know that these soft tyres are just going to be very, very powerful indeed. So coming through into here, let's see what we can do. Doing that very, very nicely. And now this is the stage where his tyres are starting to go off very, very slowly. It's coming through into this end of sector 1. See the gap to Websy is still around about 8.3 seconds, 8.2 seconds. Probably going to be boxing at the end of this lap, and the aim here is just to try and keep it like a scale electric. Just try and hit the same point every single lap. And this track is just so brutal, because if you just get out of that rhythm, you don't hit your right line, you will get an invalidation, you will get a penalty, you'll have to use an unnecessary amount of ERS to defend with. It really teaches you to be ultra consistent. So at the end of this here now, I'm going to box because I think my teammate might have been close enough to overtake me, and that's not really a good strategy for him because he's going to go in the mediums and I'm going to go on the softs, and I'm going to get an undercut as well. So his race is really effectively over at this stage of the race here. So, but as we make our way out of the pits, you can see Websy was already 9 seconds. And if you look at the minimap here, that's how far away he is, and we have about 6 laps to close in. So now you're about to see how powerful these soft tires really are, and I wasn't joking of how much the difference there is between the medium and the soft. The softs are just a different world in terms of the handling. There's no more understeer anymore. If anything, there might be even too much oversteers. We've got MSN Scarlet behind. He pitted quite early, trying to go for a very big undercut, but you're about to see with these fresher softs, because I went quite deep into the race, you will just see how much faster I am. And you can see we've already pulled out of the DRS zone. So we're coming up to Goxy25, who's a member of my channel, regular in these hobbies as well, and a very good driver. But you can see with these soft tires how much faster we are at this stage. We are just closing in very quickly. But you can see Websy is still halfway down the straight, so we still have a lot of work to do. And you can see with the ERS, I made sure when I came out the pits, I came out with as close to as 100% as possible. You're probably wondering why I'm not using any overtake now, and that's because there is really no benefit for me doing that, because if I used it, I'm going to catch a Goxy going through the midfield section anyway, so there really is just no point. So I'm quite happy to catch him towards the end of the lap and then use all of that ERS to then go for a very fast lap, or trying to set the fastest lap of the race here. So we're going to try and use no ERS to get within his DRS zone, and I think you're about to see going through this section, we are going to do that. Not through this bit here, but you can see almost going flat out, gaining so much time. Using it now because I want to make sure I'm in the detection point by the end of the lap, and going through into here. Do we do it? Yes, we do, because it is just right here. And now we're going to try and overtake him going down this main straight. So trying to get a good exit coming off this corner. Let's see if he defends this very hard. And going across the line, it's not the fastest lap of the race because we're not trying to set it at this stage. Still not using the ERS because we do have the benefit of the DRS here. So he actually lets me go, so he didn't really put up too much of a fight. And we've got the same situation again where I'm not going to use the ERS in this lap because I'm going to catch Mr. Zaki Wacky, who's another member of my channel. So if you are a member of my channel, same for Websy as well, you will be getting priority invites. So if you do want to race me, that's really the way to do it. So we set purple sector 1 because we had the DRS from Goxy behind. But again, I'm saving all of my ERS because I don't want to catch him too quickly. Otherwise, it's just going to be a waste of the battery power. So go through into here. We've still got 5 seconds we have to close in on Websy up ahead. But you can just see going through this section, absolutely threading through a needle, going through into there. And we're going to be comfortably within the DRS zone going through into this corner. So coming off this again, I probably won't be using it. Maybe I might use it on this lap because I think the tyres will probably be starting to wear towards the end of the race here. So we're not using anything on the exit of this. We set the fastest lap anyway so far, and you can see we're still not using the ERS. So just knowing that I'm in a good position, and his red light is flashing, so that's why you have to really manage the ERS very well around this circuit. If you don't, then you're going to be an absolute sitting duck on the straights here. So we're going to use it on the exit of this corner. Maybe try and get within the DRS zone of a Websy by the end of this lap, if that is even possible. But you can see we've already broken out a second from the car behind. We're going to have to make up pretty much 1.5 seconds in these seconds of course, but I don't think we're going to do it in this lap, unless he has an absolutely nightmare last sector. But you can see again just how much time pulling in, and you can see FLK8, you can see 9 seconds behind now, and we are the only one who still doesn't have a penalty at this stage. So really closing in up on Websy. Probably not going to be using any of the battery once again on this lap. Give a little boost going across the line, and it's a 15.7, but we turn it off immediately as we hit the line because we don't want to be catching him too quickly. Probably going to leave it to the end of the lap and then try and go for an even faster lap, despite being on these tyres for a good few laps. So go through into this section now. See, the gap is already 3 seconds behind, and Mr. Zakiwaki is a fast driver. He's certainly not a slow driver. As I'm checking, you're wondering what I'm looking at there. I'm actually checking if my gameplay is recording or not, because that would be a real big shame if it wasn't. And that's now our second warning, and that was just a very, very clumsy warning indeed, as someone has crashed off at the side of the track. So really want to try and go through this race again. I really try and treat this like a league race, because the league race is a 50% distance. This is a 25% distance. So we'd have to be going double this in a league race. And I think last time I raced around here, I didn't get a penalty. Not a single warning I got around here. So really want to be trying avoiding getting any warnings at all around this circuit, especially if you're aiming for a 50% race. So coming off this corner, you can see we've lost a lot of lap time by not using the ERS here, but we're going to be using the DRS now. And you can see his red light is flashing as well. So we still have quite a lot of ERS on board here. And now let's see how much we pull away combined with our pace and the amount of ERS we save. So really going to be pushing very, very hard now. Let's see what we can do. I think we're going to try and set another fastest lap of the race. And you can see the gap is already up to 1 second. Going through to imagine hook this apex fairly nicely, but the tyres will start to be giving up at this stage of the race. So might not be able to set a fastest lap, but I'm going to try it potentially anyway. Going through into here, threading it through here, making sure you don't get invalidation, hooking the car on the inside of each of these curbs, because it really will help stabilize the car. And you can see we've gone up to 1.5 seconds, but now we've actually caught a lap car at the perfect point, because now we're actually going to get DRS for the last lap. And maybe that's what I was looking at on the minimap, because we weren't actually pushing that hard on this lap. So coming off the exit here, now we're going to be using the ERS, I imagine, at some point on this last lap, because we have the DRS. See, it's 16.2. Let's see if we have any more life in these tyres. And you can just see the gaps. Like, look at the Scarlet. It's now almost 10 seconds when he was right behind me coming out of the pits here. So cutting this corner, making sure you just kiss this one. Try and get a good exit off here using the DRS. And let's see what our sector time is going through this. Let's call it. It's 3 tenths down. So I don't think we're going to be able to improve on this last lap. You can see the tyres are starting to degrade at a rapid rate now. But you can see what we did with this strategy, really saving our battery nicely, making sure we didn't get any penalties going long into the race, managing our tyres well, and knowing when to attack and be aggressive. So we're going to use the rest of our ERS 9 tenths down. So that just shows you how quickly the softs do degrade, but they are still much, much faster than the mediums, even at this stage of the race. See, we pulled out 4 seconds already, and coming across the line, we're going to take the last 2 firsts at Mexico. I hope that was useful for you. I hope you learned something into how I approach races and what I think about. I would certainly recommend this track if you're looking to improve your consistency and just to become a better driver overall. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for all the members who have joined my YouTube membership recently. I will be giving a shout out in the next video, and I will be catching you very, very soon. Peace.